It looks like the Walt Disney Company and Warner Brothers are set to lose their exclusivity of broadcasting for the NBA. The landscape for that is about to change radically as other players like Comcast, NBC Universal, and even Amazon come into the mix. Now, even though sports are not the sexiest topic for our audience here on Valliant Renegade, believe me, I get it. But what you do need to understand is that any major sea change when it comes to the Walt Disney Company and Warner Brothers, for that matter, in sports streaming rights is going to have serious negative ramifications on their cash flows, on their financial statements. Because even with big movies like Avengers Endgame back in 2019 that returned $1 billion or so in profit back from the theaters to the Walt Disney Company, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what live sports and ESPN can do. And that is what has been propping up failed theatrical releases over the last several years. If that is thrown into jeopardy any more than it already is, it's going to be a major problem. And we're going to talk about that right now. Renegade Online. And it's looking like, especially for Warner Brothers, they are about to get shanked.
Yeah, this is...
I mean, Disney is about to get shanked too, but Warner Brothers is really about to take it.
This is, yeah, so I was actually messaging with Valliant about this earlier, and I don't know if any of y'all caught the chat that we did about a week ago on this topic. The NBA rights deal is, I know a lot of people are saying that, oh, it's going to, they're going to be negotiating it throughout the summer. It's going to head into the fall. I think that they're going to have it all ironed out probably within the next week because they want to get they want to get this information in their upfront presentations.
Yep.
And the latest news that has come out, and I'll just summarize it for everybody. Right now, it looks like ESPN is going to retain broadcast rights for what they consider their A package, but it's going to be the A package with fewer games. Because if the NBA right now is looking at bringing in 3 partners. So there's no way that ESPN is going to be able to retain the same number of coverage of games that they have over the next 10 years if they bring in a third partner.
Give them some of the numbers we were discussing earlier, number of games, Grits.
Yeah, so right now every NBA team plays 82 games a year in the regular season. So that's not counting, any of the in-season playoffs or any of the postseason playoff games. So, you've got 82 games a year for each NBA team, and there's 30 teams. ESPN broadcast the deal that they had that was split with Warner over the past 10 years. ESPN broadcast roughly 100, to 120 games. Now, based on what we are hearing, coming out of the leaks from the negotiations, it appears that Amazon has won. Amazon is going to be the first streaming player for the NBA. They are going to receive broadcast rights for regular season games as well as a portion of the playoff games.
That's
now,
big.
We do not know. Nobody is saying exactly how many games they're going to have. But obviously, if they're going to have regular season and playoffs, which ESPN used to have when it was just them and Warner, obviously, ESPN is going to lose a share of the games that they typically have.
Because there's a finite number of games of regular season and playoff to be divided.
Well, what just came out in the Wall Street Journal, it was last night, I believe, and a couple of other articles have recently come out adding further clarification. It appears that ESPN is set to fork over $2.6 billion per year over the next 10 years, or it could be 12, that they're speculating that they may sign, typically these agreements are 10 years. Some are speculating they may even go as high as 12, but it looks like ESPN is going to be set to fork over $2.6 billion a year to retain their A package at a discount, mind you, because they're not going to get the same number of games.
I was about to say.
But to put this in perspective, 10 years ago, Disney paid $1.5 billion per year.
Yep.
So they're basically practically almost doubling
for less content.
Content. And so now you see this, what's on screen here, NBC is preparing to spend $2.5 billion a year. And what the latest article that was just released before we went live, that is going to be for 2 primetime games a week for the duration of the season, which is roughly 6 months.
And of course, all of this right now, of course, Warner Brothers, this headline here saying that if NBC is putting down this $2.5 billion to get basically all of Warner Brothers games now.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be entering into this joint venture with the Disney company. And it is super critical to Bob Iger that joint venture go off without a hitch. They announced that thing, to quote Nelson Peltz, they announced that thing before the term sheet phase, which means that they didn't even have a, hey, this is where we're negotiating it from kind of setup. Bob Iger needs ESPN to work as they're going to get back into this streaming numbers game yet again and take us all on this streaming roller coaster again. But now they don't even make the content themselves. They have to purchase it from someone else. So this whole sports situation, the sports leagues know that they have everybody over a barrel here.
Yeah. It gets better,
they gave away
though.
all their leverage.
This is it, is that, look, the sports conglomerate, and I said this the minute this thing was announced, this is the biggest bag of BS that will never get through the Federal Trade Commission for a multitude of reasons. None the least, the leagues wouldn't even approve this thing because the NFL is being split in half. Paramount was not part of that conglomerate. It was Fox, it's Warner, it's Disney. Now Disney is losing a sizable, maybe 30% or more chunk of one of their major sports broadcasting rights with the NBA. Warner Brothers was another major of the third of the 3 partners in this deal. They're losing a significant portion, potentially, from what it looks like, of their NBA broadcast rights in relation to TNT. What value do they bring to the table now? And the kicker of it all is that NBC, who was broadcasting the NBA for years during the golden era of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, the NBA on NBC, they're getting it back. And guess what, kids? Disney paid for it. We made jokes about Donald Trump saying, we're going to build a wall and we're going to make Mexico pay for it. Well, Comcast did it to Disney because Disney's been stroking them checks for Hulu. Disney's already forked over $8 billion in cash, and they ain't done paying for that yet. Yep. Disney literally wrote the check to Comcast to walk in the door on this deal and stuff them. And I think it's hilarious.
And furthermore, Comcast is why Disney paid so much for Fox.
Yep.
Because they jacked up the bidding war and then said, oh, you want to pay that much? Fine, go ahead. Have fun. Bye.
Yeah.
And that Fox cash cow is about to change.
This is chef's kiss to Comcast.
By the way, there is a lesson in all of these stories we've been doing. If you're the CEO of Paramount and this one lady owns 70% of the voting rights, don't try and do deals without asking her about it first.
Oh, yeah.
If you're Disney and you want to put together this sports conglomerate that has content from the NBA and the NFL, don't announce it to the world before you talk to them about it.
Yep.
And lastly, if you really want to make the NBA happy, don't bulldoze their attraction at your theme park.
Oh, man.
But aside from those 3 little factors, there's a lesson here. Don't piss off people you need to do business.
Yeah. Look, the thing is that more and more and more of these sports leagues are going to be more segregated in terms of where their entirety is. So, like right now, you can go buy the NFL Sunday ticket from Google, right? Because they bought that from DirecTV, which had it for 20-something years. So you can go buy all of the NFL through that third party at Google, and you'll be able to watch all the games except for the ones that are broadcast in your local media area with your teams. Yeah. MLB doesn't license out their stuff as their package to anybody. MLB created their own NFL package that they don't go through Google. They sell it through MLB. Yeah. So if you want to watch, you want to get everything in Major League Baseball, you can buy it straight from MLB. The NBA, the NFL, they still want solid, exclusive broadcast rights out there, but now they're getting more and more split up. You've got the NFL on CBS and Fox primarily. You've also got the NFL, the Sunday Night Football is still on NBC. You've still got now Thursday Night Football is all at Amazon. The NBA is now going to be shattered into pieces. There is no commercial viability, at least not one that could charge a high enough price to justify its costs and then still pull in enough customers to actually be profitable. You cannot have a sports conglomerate. This Warner Brothers, Fox, Disney deal is crap. It's not going anywhere. And forget the regulatory scrutiny. The fact is that the bulk of the sports that these guys will broadcast. Now, maybe the NCAA side of things could be different, but as far as professional sports, they're too shattered, especially once you throw in hockey and golf and everything else to make that thing viable unless they get Paramount and Comcast and now Amazon and Google and other players involved in that conglomerate, which is exactly what they didn't want to do in the first place, because otherwise they would have done it.
And you know who never made deals like this? These stupid, hope we make it happen, impossible deals. Madison Square Garden.
Oh, man.
You know, where that guy with no media experience
right out of
was
my
involved.
Mouth, Lou. Perfect.
Oh, that Peltz guy, what does he know? We're smarter than he is.
By the way, you know who sells streaming of events at Madison Square Gardens? Nelson Peltz.
Yeah, exactly.
Just Pyrrhic victory.
Just another thing to add for the viewers of why this is so, just why everybody is watching this like a hawk. TNT has held the broadcast rights for the NBA since 1989.
Mm-hmm.
If Zaslav allows them to lose this bid, because one, I think Warner's financial situation is probably about as bad as Disney's.
Yeah.
I want to know where Disney's getting $2.6 billion a year in addition to all the other commitments they have.
They're capitalizing the parks. That's it. They've got the cash flows because unlike Warner Brothers and Paramount, they have the cash flows from other enterprises to sustain it. Like Comcast, even though it's diminishing right now, they still have the broadband side, which is still a relative cash machine. They know what they've got, and they just got a ton of cash from Disney, like I said. That's the big difference. That's why I said Paramount right now, Paramount Global, which you saw today with them, that is the Walt Disney Company without parks and experiences.
Yep.
I watched a lot of hockey, or I did, and NBC used to be one of the main broadcast partners for the NHL, but that has since gone to ESPN. So I find that that's an interesting dynamic there too. That NBC basically gave up hockey and they're going to get the NBA here. It looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure they did a cost analysis to see what was worth it. Right. It's like, hey, look, we're going to get better value for our dollar. Over here.
ESPN did a kind of like a trial run with the NHL for their broadcast rights. I think they signed, it was maybe like a 2-year deal because they were wary of the NHL and, sort of, does it have a lot of longevity in terms of ratings? And the NHL playoffs, the first year that ESPN got the rights, the ratings went through the roof. Mm-hmm. And so Disney has negotiated a longer rights agreement. So I think ESPN's going to have the NHL rights for at least another 10 years.
Yeah, maybe so. And look, talking about Warner Brothers real quick to wrap this up, I want to make this really clear. Yes, there's probably going to be a lot of people out there that want to throw David Zaslav under the bus because Warner Brothers is going to relinquish, not entirely, but it seemingly a very significant portion of the NBA rights that they've had for quite a while. Here's the reality. David Zaslav did not put Warner Brothers in this position. David Zaslav did not put Warner Brothers in the financial position that when these rights came up, that there was perhaps no other choice for Warner Brothers but to walk away. Again, Warner Brothers, as was brought up earlier, like Disney, has been paying, I think the figure I saw was maybe around $1.3 billion a year for their set of the rights, maybe slightly higher.
It's 1.4.
1.4. Okay. So now it's going to be, if everything were to stay tit for tat, we're looking at Disney prices. We're looking at 2.6, 2.7 billion a year. After the NBA in the last several years, we've seen ratings decline. It's still a good advertising sale, right? It's still one of the best advertising money machines out there to sell to advertisers, and Grits can tell you better than I can. But I'm sure this was a reluctant decision on the part of Warner Brothers, because you know what? We're not in a position to do that because, unfortunately, the people that were here before us ran this company so hard into the ground. We're still trying to climb out of a financial hole. Look at what Zaslav and Warner Brothers have been doing the last several years. They've been cutting. They've been paying down some really egregious debt. And it's like, look, if we commit ourselves now to this, we'd love to have it, but unfortunately the timing isn't right. We have to make a decision that's in the long-term best interest of this company, and right now the NBA and the price tag they're asking for what we'd like to keep for what we've had the last several years, it's just not financially feasible, and they're going to have to make the hard decision.
And let's not forget that when Zaslav took over, one of the very first things that he publicly said to the media was, "I'm not so sure that we need to keep the NBA." He said it.
You're right. He did.
Yeah.
He did. Make sure you're subscribed to Valliant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.